Cartel activity in Mexico as of 2024. This is an updated map. I literally just got back from Mexico a few days ago. I was in Chihuahua for 2 weeks, and honestly, it was fine. I know Americans look at this map and freak out. I'm just, not to say that this isn't real. I just think a lot of Americans look at this and freak out and think this country's literally just real life Mad Max. There's constantly explosions and flamethrowers and chaos. There are obviously major factions in the north here. You can actually see among the most dangerous states because there's like crossover in territory, which is actually really lines up with the US State Department's travel advisory. For the red Mexican states, they are obviously highly advising you reconsider travel here. So all the purple is really just showing disputed territory. So yeah, things are obviously going to be more dangerous. And in red, we have one of the more known ones. And again, the purple really showing why Tijuana is considered the most dangerous city in the entire world currently. But just like this travel advisory shows, the Yucatan Peninsula is one of the most safe areas of the country. There isn't a whole lot of activity happening here, but yeah, you do have to be careful in Cancun, depending on where you go. I mean, that's the biggest thing. It depends on where you're going. Like, I've never been to Cabo, but it's safe to say, even though it's in purple, you're probably extremely safe in Cabo. Isn't Cabo just like an American city-state at this point? I don't really know how else to describe this. I felt totally fine. Like, I don't know. There's really nothing more I can elaborate on. The infamous fertility rate of South Korea, and it's also for the 6th consecutive year as well. The rate is projected to fall this year to 0.68. For reference, you have to be at 2.1 to just keep population levels maintained. With currently 50 million people living in this country, by 2100, they'll only have 24 million. Now, I know a lot of people love to look at, depopulation as if it's going to be this good thing. I could see where that idea does feel right. But something nobody considers is imagine a country where more than 50% of the people living in it are over the age of 60. Like, do you know what that's gonna do? Like, imagine under 5% of people in a single country being under the age of 18. Like, that's the concern. That's what a lot of people are not thinking about. Like, imagine a place where there's just literally only retirees. Like, it's a retirement community, but that's the entire country. That is the problem. And unsurprisingly, this map is really showing it's the cities that have the lowest birth rate. So you're talking obviously Seoul, the capital, as well as Busan down here in the coast. But interestingly, even rural parts of South Korea aren't that high. Yeah, not a single region even exceeding 1. That's insane. Everyone usually loves to focus on Japan when it comes to this issue, but it's really South Korea. And the issue is South Korea could be a look into the future for many other countries around the world. Italy is also struggling in Europe. Then there's a lot of places that are trying to fight this by letting more immigrants in. Even China obviously facing issues as they've been declining in population. The worry here is the vast majority of people will be retired and there won't be anybody to work actual jobs. But I think when it comes to that, a lot of people don't consider technology and the way that's also rapidly growing. Maybe some of those jobs will have already been replaced by technology. We won't need humans to do those anymore, but who knows if it's gonna be enough. Probably not, but it'll help. The official Russian point of view about the Ukrainian situation as of 2024, and this kind of says a lot because you don't normally see maps like this in the West. I mean, they're just straight up claiming that they have all this now, including this darker area, which they're claiming they own, but it's currently illegally occupied by Ukrainian troops. Weirdly, they are saying that these lands are Ukrainian, but they are currently occupied by Russian troops. The situation is obviously getting extremely messy, especially as time goes on. Ukraine just doesn't have enough military-aged men at this point. Meanwhile, Russia's war machine is only revving up as they're building more, getting more and more military equipment out and training more soldiers. There's also been more and more maps about Russia's proposals to divide up Ukraine as well. According to this map, they're technically losing. That is a lot of quote-unquote Russian land that Ukraine took over. The world's newest countries since 1990, and there's been a lot. It's actually kind of funny how many appeared in that decade and the following, and how many haven't appeared recently. So obviously the first big one is the collapse of the Soviet Union. All these new countries popped out in 1991 or even 1990 with Lithuania. We also had the unification of Germany in the year 1990, but it wasn't just the collapse of the Soviets, it was the collapse of communism in Europe as a whole, kind of, because then you had the collapse of Yugoslavia, Slovenia and Croatia getting their independence in 91, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. Czechoslovakia split up in 93. Small note, but Namibia getting their independence in 1990. That was an independence they gained from South Africa. There's only a few places that gained their independence in the early 2000s, Serbia being one of them. And Kosovo. There's East Timor breaking away from Indonesia. Almost missed out on Palau. And then the youngest country on earth, the last time we got a new country was in 2011. Obviously South Sudan getting their independence from Sudan. It's crazy, we've gone 13 years without having a new country. The vast majority of these places, 15 to be exact, all got their independence because of the fall of the Soviet Union. But just look at this timeline. I mean, we had pretty much the fallout, the end of the Cold War, and then nothing but just kind of small things here and there, and then boom, 2011. There's reports that the next new country will be Bougainville. They voted in 2019 to be independent, and it's supposed to happen in 2027, but I don't know if Papua New Guinea is actually going to allow that. A very detailed map. If all ice melted, so both ice caps are gone, the entire east coast of the US is just gone. Well, the entire state of Florida is absolutely gone. Florida, fun fact, is the flattest state in the US, and I thought it was one of these states like Kansas. Louisiana also is very low sea level wise, so Pine Bluff would become a coastal city. Meanwhile, this problem extends all the way down to the Yucatan Peninsula, Veracruz. Central America just becomes kind of like islands in the Caribbean, which, wow, Cuba really just becomes, that's weird. Hispaniola almost not affected at all. Meanwhile, Cuba, it's all messed up. Then once again, we get a nice big old Californian lake here, which is apparently how it was a long time ago too. Meanwhile, across the pond, here's Europe. Northern Germany is gone. Of course, the lowlands are gone. That's kind of why they named it. If anyone's going to beat this though, it would be the Netherlands. The UK is looking really like weaker than ever. The Iberian Peninsula is mostly saved. It is very like hilly, but there is still coastline that's going to be gone. The Italian Peninsula is holding on by a thread to not turn into an island. Greece is definitely going to lose some stuff, but they are also kind of rocky. The strait is definitely going to get a lot wider. Incredibly, the Black Sea will then reach the Caspian Sea. The Caspian Sea is technically just a lake. It's not connected to the outside. So the Mediterranean will become like this mega inland sea because it will connect all the way, which is insane to think about. Obviously, all that stuff is really bad, especially economically. This is just terrifying from a human standpoint because of how many people actually live here. Billions in this part of China, billions in this part of India. Well, it's Bangladesh really that's worrisome. Maybe not quite billions, but I mean, there are 1 billion here, 1 billion here. There's millions, 500,000 maybe. Tokyo and Korea losing coastline. Also Indonesia, very populated islands. They're gonna lose stuff. I mean, the amount of people that would be displaced, it's difficult to really grasp. Antarctica, by the way, looks like this, which is completely unrecognizable. Africa, for the most part, is okay, but they are definitely still losing stuff. I mean, the northern coast here looks completely different. There's like kind of an island now here. A lot of people living in Nigeria, and there's only gonna be more people that live in Nigeria as we go into the future. Lagos, that's not good if Lagos is underwater. Also, a bunch of territory lost here. Scary stuff. Throwback to when the United States was literally losing their minds. Like, what is this? I can't believe this was back during 2020, during the pandemic times. Oh, don't even get me started on this stuff. I really can't think of something more embarrassing than having participated in this. I was there, Gandalf. I reviewed this map 3,000 years ago. Of course, I can't find the exact video, but it's somewhere out there. So this was apparently to secure resources, or PPE, personal protective equipment. Washington, Oregon, and California formed the Western States Pact. Nevada was working with the Western States, but not formally a member. British Columbia in Canada was also kind of working with Washington. There was also the Midwestern Partnership with Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota. The Dakotas, Iowa, and Missouri were formally invited, but they all denied. This sounds like a horrible alternative history map. Like, this was real. This happened. I'm not making this up. Remember that part of early COVID where US states started forming regional alliances like some sort of stupid alternative history civil war? There was the Regional Advisory Council, also a coordination between Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. This was kind of something a little bit different, but it's included on the map. The Higher Education Recovery Task Force, basically just the South. I will say this map is clearly, you know, sensationalizing a lot of things so that, you know, it goes more viral. Like, did we need to see the Tennessee Major Metro Task Force? What even really is that? There's also coordination between Maryland, DC, Virginia, and North Carolina. Like, I know things were a little bit freaky in the very beginning, but looking back at this, it's just embarrassing. Like, I don't even know what to say. This is ultimately what it ended up, you know, kind of looking like, but man, weird times. The Gen Alpha kids are gonna laugh so hard at us in 10 years when they look back at this map. Big thanks to my patrons this month. Kansas was mentioned. KingBearHaze, JohnDenver, I can't sleep without Drew's voice. DaBeautiful-MEGAN-Underwood, Archaeology, aPhatNarwhal, Carmel Saida, Connor Pavlik, DOOCHBAGGINS, Fredrik
LuxembourgLover,
Traven, Tambre, friend,
KirinoIsBestGirl,
if you hear this, I love you.
The
Mexican
and
760.
ZaneyBoi.